relations, transformation of global governance, policy development, and global solidarity campaigns. The NEC discussions build on the recent ANC Lekgotla, which was held in January 2025, as well as previous NEC Makgotla, which outlined a number of priority areas for the advancement of the African agenda and the building of a better world. The ANC recognizes that the implementation of ANC foreign policy priorities take place within a very challenging global environment as a result of the rapidly changing balance of forces and the ensuing challenges that confront South Africa. In ensuring a better Africa, there has been commendable developments towards the silencing of the guns in line with the Agenda 2063. The ANC reiterated its dedication to peaceful resolutions in conflict-affected areas, including Cabo Delgado, South Sudan, Sudan, Eritrea, Somalia, Tigray, in Ethiopia, Eastern DRC, and the Sahel. It expressed concern over escalating tensions in the Horn of Africa and remains committed to ongoing peace-building processes. We welcome the work of the SADC in the Eastern DRC, which South Africa has been part of, and we believe there should be ongoing diplomatic engagement to find lasting peaceful solutions. The ANC will continue working with all partners within the region and the continent to achieve a tangible solution that is of benefit to the continent. The NEC noted with concern the resurgence and spreading of right-wing ideology and its adverse impact in international politics, and in particular the African continent. This poses a serious risk to the global south and undermines global solidarity efforts and gives rise to the imposition of unilateralism in the international system. These right-wing tendencies weaken the principle and practice of the sovereign equality of states. Southern Africa faces challenges including terrorism in Mozambique, economic sanctions in Zimbabwe, and political instability in Eswatini, underscoring the need for regional solidarity and collective intervention. The ANC's 2024 elections manifesto was very clear. Our foreign policy must drive inclusive growth, economic development, and job creation. Through diplomatic engagement, trade promotion, and multilateral cooperation, South Africa has strengthened its economic footprint on the African continent and beyond. Our strategic agreements with the European Union in areas of science, technology, climate innovation, and decarbonization have created new avenues for local industrialization and green jobs. These engagements are unlocking investment, supporting the beneficiation of local minerals, as well as ensuring that the shift to a low-carbon economy is pursued in a way that protects the livelihoods and developmental interests of the majority. South Africa's leadership in African integration, SADC stability, and BRICS cooperation continues to open markets for manufactured exports, enhance tourism, and grow investor confidence, directly contributing to job creation and inclusive growth. We note the litany of the global shifts from unipolarity to multipolarity, driven by the emergence of powers such as China and Russia, that challenge the Western dominance and offers opportunities for South-South cooperation. Rising unilateralism and the erosion of multilateral governance institutions require renewed commitment to a fair and an inclusive multipolar world order. We further note the litany of the executive orders from the United States of America's administration, including the return of our ambassador, Comrade Ibrahim Rasool. Despite this, we urge our government to continue to pursue diplomatic engagements with the United States of America's government. The ANC condemns in the strongest terms the ongoing campaign of misinformation by local right-wing elements who seek to distort reality, incite racial tensions, and falsely claim a so-called white genocide in South Africa. This dangerous and racially charged rhetoric not only undermines our democracy, but seeks to reverse the hard-won gains of a free, united and non-racial South Africa. We reject their divisive politics and call on them instead to join hands with the rest of the country to build a better South Africa, one where the economic exclusion of the black majority is decisively addressed and all who live in it work together to shape a shared, inclusive, united, non-racial and non-sexist prosperous future. BRICS represents a key initiative towards a more equitable global economic and political system, challenging established institutions and norms dominated and imposed by Western powers. Our role within BRICS and the G20 promotes solidarity, equality, sustainability, equitable development and cooperation. The ANC will prioritize solidarity campaigns supporting Western Sahara, Cuba and Palestine, reinforcing our stance against imperialism and colonialism. The ANC supports South Africa's government's effort to advocate for the Palestinian people, including the case at the ICJ against Israel's genocidal activities in Gaza, whose victims are mainly women and children, calling for a ceasefire and humanitarian corridors for aid. The ANC further calls for the unity of Palestinians, which will be a good foundation for a lasting, peaceful solution. South Africa's international outlook must always serve the domestic goal of transforming the lives of its people. It must attract investments, grow exports, drive skills development and create jobs, especially for the youth, women and the historically marginalized. The African National Congress remains committed to defending our sovereignty, transforming the global order, and ensuring that our foreign policy serves peace, justice and development. The ANC's International Relations Program for 2025 will continue to pursue these priorities with clarity and with determination. We will not retreat in the face of pressure. We will not bend to misinformation. We will stand for peace. We will stand for dignity. We will stand for a better world, because that is the ANC's historic mission. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Comrade DSG. I will at this point turn to yourselves, colleagues, and let us take some questions. SABC, followed by ENCA.
I just want clarity. You spoke about ANC policies, international relation policy, not transactional, but transformative. When you look at the current debate around South Africa's relationship with the United States of America, the current head of state of the US is very transactional. But secondly, these transformative laws that were passed by Parliament and the President has since signed their bills into law are the bone of contention right now. How do you hope to deal with the US, with its head of state being transactional? I think, how are you going to ensure that your deployees in government are able to navigate that, but also to address these issues? There's a demand that you tone down on the recently bills that the President signed into law. And the other issue is the Middle East. When you look at the debate with the US, many believe that it has to do with the International Criminal Court case, with the warrants issued against the Prime Minister of Israel and the former Defense Minister and the International Court of Justice. Will you compromise on that? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sophie, may I turn to you?
Yeah. Treaty Jones, ENCA. There's been media reports of the U.S. cutting defense ties cooperation with South Africa. I just wanted to bring it to your attention and ask are you aware about this? And this is in accordance with the executive order signed by President Trump. So I want to know if you're aware about this. Minister of International Relations, what is your response to the sentiment by many, even in South Africa, including the former President Thabo Mbeki during this lecture, that Ambassador Ibrahim Rasool's criticism of the Trump administration were improper and reflected his personal views and were inappropriate? Just want to get your reaction on that. And then lastly, are there discussions taking place about the envoy that will be sent to the United States as well? Have those discussions begun taking place, and who will form part of that delegation?
Thank you very much. Business Day.
Thank you. It's Tando Michael from Business Day. Good afternoon to the leadership. I just want to know what the ANC...
Tando, if you could just amplify a bit.
Oh, so I'm speaking into the mic. I just want to know what the ANC thinks of the lobby groups in the US that are calling for targeted sanctions against individual members of the ANC. Was that discussed in the subcommittee on Friday? And then how does the ANC see Africa's unity with regards to the Trump matter? I mean, individual African countries are sending their own delegations to Trump. Madagascar has, Kenya has, Egypt has, but Trump is shutting South Africa out. And then does the ANC see the next ambassador to the US as an ANC member, similar to the former ambassador Ibrahim Rasool? Is that what the ANC seeks? Would it be Andries Nel? Would it be Martinus van Schalkwyk?
Are you bidding for them?
She seems to know better than you.
That's on a lighter note, Tando. Shazi?
Good day, Nkosinathi Shazi from Power FM News. The Democratic Alliance has called for a formal review of Cabinet's foreign policy. So they are insinuating that the ANC, despite not getting the majority, are calling all the shots when it comes to international relations and foreign policy. They want to be consulted on a cabinet level. So my question is, with the ANC seemingly birthing the GNU, do you guys consult other political parties with regards to foreign policy? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let me go to Eyewitness News.
Good afternoon, Alpha Omishwana here from Eyewitness News. Just to add up on Gule's question, I think over the last 2 days, the phrase that we've heard a lot is the president will send a delegation at the right time. I want to know when exactly is the right time. What are we waiting for? Why aren't we opening those diplomatic channels to engage with the United States? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Newsroom? At the back.
We don't go for newsroom now. Just more directly perhaps. Does the ANC agree that given what former ANC former President Thabo Mbeki had to say, does the ANC agree that Ibrahim Rasool crossed the line diplomatically, at least? And then does the ANC also agree that perhaps the United States of America would be best served by a Caucasian?
By what?
That
By a Caucasian.
perhaps a white person should represent South Africa in the United States.
Thank you very much. I will at this point turn to the leadership here. DSG. You may very well also indicate there are questions that seem to be directed at Comrade Lamula, but the DSG will give guidance in terms of all the other questions.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I hope I'm not too tall for the mics. You can. So must I remove this?
Yeah. No, my thing is thing.
Is it fine now? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Yeah, firstly, with regards to our outlook, international relations outlook, as stated in the statement, it's a progressive international anti-imperialism outlook that informs also us in government. And it is within that context that there are issues that we will never compromise on, because they are the foundational values of our international relations policy. And that is in relations to international law, its respect with regards to the ICJ matter, our outlook on human rights, and also our own domestic issues, which are foregrounded on the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa. On issues of transformation, even the International Human Rights Council in Geneva has confirmed that South Africa does need redress on the land question. So we can't compromise on those issues of principle. We remain open to engage on trade issues, trade relations, to open up and to continue to cooperate with the United States of America on the trade issues and any other country in the world. As an emerging economy, we need technologies, we need various investment to help us grow the economy. So we will continue to cooperate in that regards and negotiate trade agreements and trade related issues. So we think that there is a space there to engage and negotiate bilateral trade engagement with the U.S. in this regard. With regards to whether the ambassador to the U.S. Should be white or black, the ANC is a non-racial organization, and as we look at the ambassador who will be appointed by the president, in terms of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, we are going to look for a capable South African that we believe is fit and proper, meets the requirements of being an ambassador to the United States or to any other country that we want to deploy that person to. And with regards to whether we will now consult with the DA on South Africa's foreign policy, we have stated it from the beginning of our term that our foreign policy is informed by the Constitution, is informed by the National Interest Document, is informed by the Foreign Services Act, and it is also informed by the National Development Plan. And that is what we are implementing. We are not implementing something out of the laws of this country, which is not mandated and which is not policy. And as the DA raises this issue, these policies that have been adopted even before the 7th administration. So it is also an issue of the rule of law to follow these policies, to respect them, and to implement them. So we will also be breaking the law if we don't implement what has already been adopted by Parliament, what has already been adopted by Cabinet. So if the DA wants this to be reviewed, the processes must be followed. The Foreign Services Act must follow the processes of Parliament. If they want to amend the National Interest Document, it must follow the same process that the Cabinet followed. This National Interest Document was not an easy agreed upon document. There was consultation in the country. It followed all processes until it was adopted by Cabinet. So the DA can't unilaterally come and say we must now implement or consult on this or that. This is already adopted. If there is anything new they want to introduce and so forth, must follow the normal course of government processes. But now government has got policies, we've got a constitution, we've got laws, they must be implemented. And that is what we're doing at DERCO. We're implementing existing laws, we're implementing what is already put into perspective. And that is why also when the president finally appoints the ambassador, either to the US or to any country, he will be doing so in terms of his power, in terms of the Constitution, and in terms of the Foreign Services Act. Until we have got a new law that gives us otherwise, we will do so. And also our understanding is that the GNU does not replace the Constitution. It's not above the Constitution. The Constitution is the supreme law of the Republic of South Africa. It's above anything else. And that is what we're implementing. We are respecting what are the tenets of the laws of the country. Thank you.
Thanks for the questions. I'm going to invite Comrade Nkosazana, with your permission, national spokesperson, to speak on the issues about Africa and the unity of Africa, whilst respecting national sovereignty of all the nations in the African continent. We are transformational. As to whether the U.S. Head of state is transactional, that's not where we want to find ourselves. And hence, in line with what Comrade Ronald has said, our approach is about managing and maintaining our trade relations, as well as engaging using the existing diplomatic channels. And hence, we have patiently, through our government, supported by the ANC, emphasized and re-emphasized the need to relate and cooperate in line with what is known to be the diplomatic channels of communication between the different countries. The issue about envoys and staff, of course, work is continuing. There are departments that are also leading around issues of trade relations, such as the Department of Trade and Industry, that continues to interact with various multinational bodies as well as international institutions. And therefore, there is no void. At the right time, just as the United States of America doesn't have yet an ambassador here in South Africa, we should also be afforded the space and time to actually look at this matter, and at the right time, those that would have been appointed would then be sent to the United States of America. Safe to say, contact with the Congress is ongoing. Contact with civil society is ongoing. Comrade Lamula, in his capacity as the minister, has been doing a lot of work prior to the elections and post the elections of the current Trump administration. We're sitting here in the NEC, and I'm sure government is in a better position to respond on issues that have to do with the recent executive orders and stuff. But what is of importance is that our positions are informed by the principles, and whatever that is being raised at an appropriate time, South Africa has to also show to the world that we are ready for any eventuality. We are ready for any eventuality because we must also protect who we are, what we seek to do, and what we stand for as a country. On the issues around targeted sanctions, we hear that there is a good lobby around that. But of course, we know that throughout our struggle, leaders and members of the liberation movement had to sacrifice. And even in this particular period, we will actually continue to pay the price of standing for justice, for humanity, and for equality and respect for the rule of law, as well as various other processes that inform our stance and how we relate with other nations. And therefore, we know it has happened to many other countries. We know that there's been blockades for 65 years in Cuba, but they've become more resilient as time goes. So even with us in the ANC, we hear that there's that strong lobby. We will continue to speak for ourselves, represent ourselves, but who are we? When it just happened a few years ago that Madiba was removed from the list of terrorists. So the struggle continues. The issue about Comrade Rasool. Comrade Rasool is back in South Africa. Comrade Rasool was an ambassador in the United States of America. We have received reports of the work that he had actually done. And it was an unfortunate situation what has occurred. And I think where we are now is to move forward. We have to move forward. Government processes have actually been utilized where he was called to come and account, and we are satisfied as the ANC that it is time for us to move forward, and it is time for us to work much more harder and united to find a better mechanism of, again, protecting and representing the South Africa that we want and the South Africa that we are. The last issue that I want to also comment on, it's what is being raised about the DA, which Comrade Lamula has spoken about. If you all go and revisit the very statement of intent, the GNU has never looked at the issue of amending the Constitution, changing foreign policy, but it had the 6 principles that we all agreed upon. And nothing about foreign policy emerged. And in this instance, we do not actually think that it is correct of them to now want to open up issues that are not necessarily what is included in the statement of intent of the GNU. However, we also need to warn those who are trying to stretch us too far. If there's a need to reopen and reflect on the Constitution, we will have to reflect on the Constitution in its entirety. Thank you very much.
We as tall as Ronald.
Oh, God.
Thank you very much. On that short question about African unity, I think there are 2 parts to it. African countries are sovereign, and there are areas where they act as sovereign states. But there are also areas where they act in a united fashion. For instance, the invitation of the president of Palestine to address our summits every year is one of the areas that unite us. And it has been going on, it's still going on. Even this year, he was there. So that unites us. But in whether a country visits another country, that's a sovereign decision. And it will remain like this for a long time until we have a different configuration of Africa, as foreseen in the Agenda 2063. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was, we're still looking forward to further reflections on continental issues, but I'm sure there will be follow-up questions. Yes. SABC.
My question on the issue of the ICJ and ICC was not really clarified. I understand that the Americans want South Africa to back down on ICC and ICJ because, you know, the current administration is pro-Israel. Are you willing to compromise? And maybe lastly, the DRC minister, we saw reports that the process has started to engage on withdrawal. How far true is that? Because we can't find joy with defense.
Thank you very much. This is going to be the last round of questions. Let me just take the others. Yes. Eyewitness News, was it you? Oh, okay. Oh, it was ANC.
Has Mr. Rasool been prevented from speaking to the media? That's number one. Number two, maybe to Mr. Lamola. How confident are you of an extension of the AGOA Act agreement? I know that the delegation will be going there around July. Our term ends in September. Are you confident that with the future lobbying and consolidation, you can get a further extension as being part and eligible of this act, given the dynamics? Thank you.
Thank you. Paul?
My question is the ANC satisfied with the posture that the president has taken with regards to matters of international relations? Now, ever since we've been having tensions with the United States, the USA has been very aggressive, going on social media, making all sorts of statements, but the president has been prudent in his approach, playing it very safe, non-aggressive. And it's the same posture he took during Russia's invasion of Ukraine. South Africa took a non-alignment stance. Now next month we will be seeing Vladimir Zelensky come to the union buildings, perhaps to seek assistance from South Africa. He also took Israel to the ICJ over their occupation of the Palestine. So is the ANC satisfied at the approach the president has taken to adopt diplomatic decorum and not be aggressive with world leaders? Oh, and including the Rwanda president, of course. He went on TV making all sorts of allegations, but once again, the president chose to play it safe. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'll come to yourself. Let me start here.
Thank you. Hi, FM. Just a question to the Minister about the misinformation that we see happening online. US role players as well, spreading these sorts of tweets or posts. What action can actually be taken in this regard, even from South Africa's side, to address what is happening? Because those posts often become quite viral and lead to further misinformation.
Thank you very much. Is this
the DSG or the statement mentions that the ANC and South Africa's foreign policy as a whole is not transactional, but it is transformative and it is progressive. But with the U.S. current administration now, it's very clear that they have taken a transactional approach, and to deal with them, you probably have to deal transactionally, and that's what South Africa, I understand, is going to do as the government devises bilateral trade deals that will be offered to Trump. I just want to know what trade-offs is South Africa willing to make in order to accommodate Trump, if at all. And then the DSG, with regards to targeted sanctions, potential targeted sanctions on individual ANC members. You mentioned the Cuba example and how Cuba has been resilient in that regards, even after decades and decades of the blockade. But with the Cuban example, South Africa is different, as in there's a domestic lobby and an international lobby in Europe and within Trump's inner circle that is working against the efforts of South Africa. And you don't see that really in the Cuban example. How does then South Africa or the ANC navigate this? I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
I think that is clear here. DSG. Thank you. Yes, sir.
I'm still on whether or not the ANC agrees that Ibrahim Rasool will cross the line, the diplomatic line.
Thank you very much. I don't see any other hand, so that would have been the last set of questions. May I invite Comrade Ronald to also tackle the earlier question, follow-up from SABC.
Thank you very much. I thought I have answered the question there, Sophie. I did. I said that there are issues of progressive internationalism which we cannot compromise on. That includes the issue of the ICJ. So, on the ICJ, it's an issue of international law, which has to be respected by everyone. And South Africa, this is a matter which we will not withdraw from the court, which we have already put. It's a matter that we believe it has to be dealt with on its merit. So this is a matter that we will not compromise on. And I think earlier on when I spoke, I did outline the other issues. And then I did state that in relations to trade matters, we trade with many countries across the globe. And in a trade, it's a two-way process. Both countries benefit. So as and also with the US, we remain ready to engage on trade agreements that are mutually beneficial for both countries, South Africa and the United States of America. So once there is clarity in terms of what are the trade issues and agreements that we can engage on, we remain ready to engage on those issues of trade. With regards to the DRC, withdrawal of SAMI DRC, yes, it's correct. There is engagement happening at the organ troika level for the processes of the SAMI DRC to start the phased process of withdrawal. And there is also engagement at the Chief of Defense Forces level that is also moving towards that direction. And key amongst this is the fact that our defense forces have got equipments in the various parts of Goma, Salke, but the key one is at the airport. So the airport needs to be opened for them to be able to live with their equipments and all that. So these engagements are relevant, are necessary to take the matter forward. And we encourage that the chiefs of the defense needs to conclude that process, to operationalize it, and to take forward as per the outcomes of the SADC summit and also the East Africa and the SADC matters. I think the other ones are more for the ANC, whether it's satisfied, and I think the DSG will be better placed. Thank you.
Right. Oh. Yeah, it's only Lamula.
No, thanks very much. We're quite satisfied with the posture of Comrade President Cyril Ramaphosa. It's the same posture that will even carry beyond this NEC for the following reasons. We believe that there has to be an opportunity where South Africa is given the space to represent itself and present its own situation, so that then there can be an appreciation of who we are, what we stand for, and what we seek to do. So how the President has responded both on the issue of Rwanda as well as the issues that have to do with all the executive orders, we believe it is a sign of maturity, a sign of respect of the choice of Americans for having elected the Trump administration. And we also appreciate the fact that we are a nation that is still building itself towards being united, non-racial and non-sexist. And therefore, there has to be also someone who must play a role that unifies the people of South Africa and gives hope, as compared to us waking every morning with a tweet or something that is coming out as a decision. We are quite happy with that. The trade-offs, there can't be trade-offs when we want to deal with the system of apartheid that has deprived the majority of South Africans when it comes to issues around deracializing our spatial development patterns. You can't trade off that. The issues of the land, because there's nowhere in the new expropriation amendment act where we talk about a hostile takeover of land or of property. It is within the confines of the Constitution, as what Comrade Ronald has emphasized. The respect for the rule of law, the respect of the Constitution. The NHI itself, it is an act that is transformational, that seeks to make sure that our health services in this country are transformational, are accessible, and most importantly, are for the good of a healthy nation. There is nothing that has to be transactional around or a trade-off when you deal with the Bella Act, because again, a nation like ours can't actually not have a policy that helps us to deal with issues of language, the issues of admission, the issues of the medium of instruction. A few months from now, we'll be commemorating June 16. We can't. It can't be transactional. And these are laws that have to do with our country. These are laws that have to do with building and constructing our own nation. And 30 years down the line, 70 years of the Freedom Charter that said South Africa belongs to all those who live in it. We have not amended that. That is also found in our Constitution. It even elaborates and say black and white. And hence, even in this situation, there can't be anything that is found to be on the wrong of what Parliament has actually processed. The people of South Africa have made inputs through parliamentary processes and consultations around these 4 pieces of legislation that the DA itself participated in, that all other formations, including AfriForum and everyone, had participated in. So we can't, as a nation as well, be dragged to a situation where we now must live and be comfortable with a minority wanting to dominate over a majority. Because they themselves are a minority within a minority. They can't even lay claim of representing a section of the South African population, which is a white section of our population, because many want to actually see South Africa progressing. We have made a commitment as the ANC that we will also engage them, Solidarity and AfriForum. We would want to engage them because we have sat with our own enemies over time to negotiate what we have here today. And it takes a movement like the ANC to show the world that for any conflict, finally we all have to come together and sit and iron out our differences. So we will, as part of the outcomes of this NEC, work towards engaging with them. But the thing that we want to actually emphasize, our Constitution informs what we are doing. Our laws dictate how we must build this nation. And of importance, we can't be handpicking things in the Constitution and people want to open them up. The majority of South Africans would want to open up many other sections in the Constitution. We do not want to get there. 70 years of the Freedom Charter, the people shall govern. There shall be peace and friendship. That's what the NEC has deliberated on. Again, the issue of Rasool, we have not gagged Rasool as the ANC. We come from a past of gagging people and all those things, those treacherous laws. So we've not gagged him. He's gone back to the Western Cape. He has reported to his region. He has reported to his branch. He went to meet his minister and so on. Life must continue now and afford South Africa then to move forward. We believe that at an appropriate time, we will be able to then give response to the way forward that the South African government is reflecting on with regard to representation in the United States of America.
Thank you very much, DSG and Comrade Lamula, Comrade Supra, Mama Nkosazana. That then brings us. Is there a question that has not been responded to? I'm looking. No, from the previous question, Bravuyo, were you sufficiently responded to?
We have responded. Whether it's satisfied is another thing.
You will just have to leave with that response. It's the official position at this stage. Thank you very much, members of the media. We are now adjourned.
Long live the spokesperson.
We are not having the live. We're not having the live closing. I will brief you offside. Thank you very much. We're adjourned.